All right, good evening, everyone. It's 6:30, so I think we'll get started. So good evening and welcome to this hearing of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Ottawa pursuant to the Planning Act. Bonjour et bienvenue à cette audience du Comité de dérogation de la Ville d'Ottawa en vertu de la loi sur l'aménagement du territoire. Cette audience se tiendra plutôt en anglais aujourd'hui, mais si vous souhaitez faire des soumissions en français, nous ferons de notre mieux pour vous accommoder. This hearing is live streaming and will be archived on YouTube. With me are my fellow panel members. We've got Julia Markovich, Colin White, and Kathleen Willis. Our illustrious chair, Anne Tremblay, is off tonight, and my name is Scott Hindle, and I'll be chairing this hearing this evening in her stead. So listed on the agenda and that appeared on the screen before we began are the applications we'll be hearing today. For the sake of efficiency, the committee may deal with agenda items in a different order, so just keep that in mind. For the hearing today, to save time and to ensure a thorough review of applications, we, the committee members, have reviewed the planning reports and any written submissions in advance. So today we'll hear oral submissions from any interested parties and updates on anything that's changed generally in the last couple of days, just to keep us up to speed. So the committee may ask for a brief presentation from the applicants to explain what's being requested, followed by questions from members and submissions from the public. For applications that the committee is comfortable with already, we may not need a presentation and we'll jump straight into questions. When it's your application, or we open to the floor to the public comment period, and if you'd like to make a comment or submission to the committee, raise your hand in Zoom and the committee coordinator will let you into the virtual hearing room. Note that there is a small delay bringing you into the hearing. That's very normal. For those on the phone, raise your hand by pressing *9 and toggle your mute and unmute with *6. When I call on you, please start with your name, spelling it if necessary, and provide your municipal address for the record. So the committee limits presentations to 5 minutes. Any exceptions will be at my discretion. I remind you to be respectful, mute yourself when not speaking, and avoid speaking to issues that are beyond this committee's fairly narrow mandate. This includes things like aspects of the proposal that do not require variances, noise, pollution, property maintenance, and property values. As part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property and file a statutory declaration confirming the sign posting. This declaration must be on file today before we can hear the application. I'll administer a formal oath for each applicant in this case by reading out a question to the applicant. In this case, you just have to respond with "I swear" or "I affirm." There's no legal difference between the responses. Swearing confirms your declaration to God versus affirming, which is against your conscience. If there are any edits or clarifications to the details of the application, I'll read those out first and ask the applicants or agent to confirm that those changes are correct. If you have questions or concern about the proposed conditions outlined in the planning staff report, best to raise those early as well. Finally, a written decision from today's hearing will be issued within 10 days and is subject to a 20-day statutory appeal period. If you'd like a copy of the decision, contact committee staff to make that request. Okay then, proceeding with the agenda, are there any declarations of interest from any of the panel members? No? Okay, seeing none and none from myself. And I don't believe we have any minutes to adopt this evening. So I think we'll jump right into adjournments. So I think we'll start with item number 2, that's 184 Merrier. I think we have Peter Valaket listed as the agent on this application.
Hello, good evening.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
So we've seen that there was a request for adjournment. Do you just want to give us a quick overview of the reasons behind that?
Yes, we're requesting an adjournment until the December 7th hearing in order to address the comments we received, particularly for zoning from Ms. Kelly, and as well to address concerns from letters received from the community.
Okay, and is it in this case, are you just amending plans so that it will conform with the existing requested variances, or will you be requesting additional variances as well?
We will be amending the plans to hopefully not be requesting additional variances. But if we might need to, once we get into the redesign in the coming weeks, but we'll address that with Ms. Kelly. Okay.
And you're confident that December 7th will give you enough time to be able to go through that process?
Yes, I'm confident.
Okay. Any questions or comments from members of the committee or staff? No? Okay. So I think, okay, given that description, I will call it to a vote then to vote to adjourn to December 7th then. All in favor? And unanimous. Okay. So we will see you back on December 7th. Ms. Willis, you wanted to add something?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to, having gone through the materials supporting the application, I was just going to ask that when this comes back, that a more complete evidence of planning justification for the requested variances be provided. I thought that the letter did not provide much evidence as to how it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. So I'm just asking that it be a more complete letter when the application comes back.
Okay. Yes, we'll revise the letter before the next meeting, the next hearing.
Thank you.
No problem.
Great. Okay, so I guess we'll see you then on December 7th. Best of luck.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we did have a registered speaker, Mr. David Pritchard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
That wasn't on my list. Perfect.
We would like to express some concerns as this project is currently going ahead either with demolition and or rebuilding without the benefit of a building permit. We submitted to you a report by the Ministry of Labor which showed multiple violations. I don't know what the next step is in this. We will be in touch with. The variances are one thing, but the veracity of these people is something else. Even now, they were ripping out 2 joists at 2 in the morning yesterday morning. So this is what we're dealing with.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that to attention. I think in this case, it sounds like that's something that's best suited for building code services. They are the ones that enforce building code and construction matters. So I do encourage you to reach out to them.
We will, but the point I am trying to make at this point, these people are resubmitting for variances. I question the veracity of anything they're doing for future reference. That's all I've got to say on it.
Fair enough. And we'll have a hearing, sounds like on December 7th, and we can get into the depths and the details of the variances and that at that time. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, so then moving right along, we also have an adjournment request for item number 3. That's 2492 Clover. I think I have the owner, Muhammad Jude, listed.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so I understand that there's been a request, I think it's from planning staff for an adjournment. You, I take it, have seen that request?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and any concerns or issues with that request?
Nope. I met with the city planner and the city engineer about their requests. About their concerns, and we are currently working together to resolve. I just got the report on Friday, and we're working together to resolve all the issues, to clarify, so that hopefully by the next hearing, we would have everything resolved.
Okay, so it sounds like things are working their way out, so that's good. In terms of date of adjournment, what do you have an anticipated time that you think you'll be confident that you'll be ready to hear this application again?
We're confident that we're working together now. We're hoping to resolve everything by mid next week. So if we are put on a December 7th hearing, we should be fine. If that's that next available date.
We can confirm with committee staff. It's my understanding that given the timelines for the agendas, the December 7th would be the first available. Is that correct?
From my side, yes.
So then, Mr. Chair, the next hearings would be November 17th or December 7th, depending on when the revised plans could be provided.
Okay, and what would be the deadline for all revised plans to be ready? I guess if there's no changes to variances, it's a little bit more straightforward, correct?
Yes. So if there's no changes to the variances, we would probably like to have everything in around November 22nd.
Okay. So maybe I'll ask the owner then, do you foresee that you would be able to be ready and confidently ready by the end of November, or is December 7th probably a safer date to aim for?
From my end, just to give the city a little bit more time, maybe December 7th. Even though from my end, I'm confident so we're not, just to clarify, we're not applying for any variances in this application. It's only severance.
Severance and then reciprocal easements, I believe, right?
Yes, correct. So, but again, I think December 7th, just to give the city a little bit more time. So there may be a little bit of back and forth. Maybe December 7th is the safer bet. That's
okay. And maybe I'll ask the planner on file just to confirm that makes sense to you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I do have some concerns with the December 7th hearing. It's my understanding from the engineer, they have concerns about how much space there is on part 1 for a single servicing trench. It's likely that the applicant will need to make some revisions to the proposed long semi on that part. It might require a minor variance for a reduced side yard setback to provide that 2.2 servicing trench. So I think there's still a lot of back and forth that we have to figure out. So I'd be cautious with scheduling the hearing for December 7th.
Okay.
Oh, oh, sorry. And in addition, we're still waiting to receive a revised tree information report.
Okay. So you'd have a hard time proceeding at this time anyway.
That is correct.
Okay. So given that and your concerns, Ms. Kelly, is there a date that you would be more comfortable with? Would it be in the new year?
I believe the next hearing after December 7th is January 11th. So I think that would provide the applicant with more time to revise the plans, to address forestry staff concerns, to revise the lot configuration to provide adequate space for servicing. So I think January 11th would give us more time to work through that.
Okay, and Mr. Jude, maybe I'll ask you as the owner on this file. Does that make sense to you, or would you prefer to continue on an earlier date?
I'm not set on stone both directions. Now, if we do go for the January hearing and we do end up resolving all the issues beforehand, are we able to push it forward, or is that not an option?
No, typically, so if we adjourn to a specific date, part of that is that this hearing acts as notice for that future date. So we would, if that were to change, we would have to do a full recirculation to re-notify that a hearing is done at a different time.
Okay, again, it comes down to the city. From my end, I'm planning to submit everything, the TIR, including that detail in regards to the servicing. I'm confident that by next week I'm going to submit everything. I guess if the city doesn't feel confident enough that, again, may need a little bit more time, I'm okay with January. I'm not going to push either way. But from my end, I will be submitting everything that's asked of me by next week.
Okay. So I think if you're okay with it, I would suggest that we move to the January date then. I know our December 7th agenda is already fairly packed. So from even just a management on our end perspective, that would give more time. And given often the holidays, things do slow down kind of getting into December. So that would give, I think, a little bit more flexibility to yourself and to the city to kind of work out differences and hopefully resolve a lot of those issues.
I do have one question though. If we do go on the December 7th and we're not quite ready at that point, things take a little bit longer than I anticipate. At that point, can we push December 7th or no? Is that not an option?
We as a committee actively try and reduce the number of adjournments like that, particularly for those in the committee community that were notified of the hearing. The more moves, the more complicated it gets for them, and it is certainly a barrier to proper kind of notifications to them. So I would actively discourage that if we can make something work in January.
Then let's stick with January.
Okay,
I'm okay
great.
with that.
So if you're okay with that, that should hopefully give you and the city enough time to kind of work out your differences, hopefully. And if not, we'll be fresh-eyed in the new year to hear the issues out on their merits. So I'll open up to members of the committee if there's any questions. No, none at this time. And then I'll open up to the public as well. If any of you want to speak either for or against this adjournment request at this time, feel free to raise your hand. Okay, and seeing none, so I'll call the vote for committee members then. All in favor of adjourning to
Sorry, can I
January?
talk? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand. Okay.
I can't, I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty with my computer.
Fair enough. Yes, go ahead.
No, it's just Renzo Veteretti here. Yeah, if they're going to delay the work on this is fine. I've been before the committee before Mr. Hindle said it quite clearly that if it doesn't specifically address the variance, not to bring it up. I just wanted to make connection with the owner to alert him that we're very concerned about the water runoff from that property onto ours on Junction Avenue, which is like a 13-foot drop. And I've submitted a PowerPoint presentation to the committee, and hope I can get it to Mr. Mohammed so he can address those when he's going for his building permit to the city.
Okay, great. We can see if you want to contact the community staff, and they can potentially make that introduction for you.
Okay, thank you. Well, we will do that. In that I spent quite a bit of time on the previous variance that was submitted last year on the same property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we'll hopefully see you in January at the next hearing as well.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. Perfect. So we've got that. Sounds like we are good to call for the vote now. So all in favor of adjourning to the first meeting in January, and we're unanimous on that. So thank you, and we will see you in this application again in the new year.
Thank you.
Cheers. Good luck. All right. So with those two adjournments out of the way, I think we can jump right into our agenda at this time. So we'll start, we'll go in order for now. We'll start with number 1, 1599 Star Top. And I have Andy Gadben as the agent listed here.
Good evening.
There we are. We can hear you.
Now you can see me.
And now we can see you. Perfect.
Excellent. Good evening,
welcome.
everybody.
Is it yourself, Andy Gadben, that will be taking the oath this evening?
Yes, it is. It is myself.
All right. So I will read it to you. It's very exciting. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing, as instructed, and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
I swear that that is true.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That gets the official part out of the way. And I'm just going to open up the planning report. We don't have any changes, it looks like. So I don't think we'll be requiring a presentation this evening. So you're off the hook for that. But I will open the floor to members of the panel if there's any questions to be asked of the applicants this evening. Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question for, I believe, Ms. Closero, the planner for the city regarding, and my question is, there seems to be a lot of discussion that had gone back and forth on this with respect to the appropriate provision on the Planning Act for the application. But I'm wondering why it was not considered to be the subject of a zoning amendment as opposed to the permission application that we have before us. It appears to me that the type of use that's proposed, the use that's proposed here has been long-standing, as I understand it. And it's, to me, it's something that would, it's an activity that would be normally associated with the car dealership. There's a service function associated with the operation of the dealership. I'm wondering why not go through a simple zoning process and legitimize the use, would do away with the potential for any problems in the future if there's additions to the building, et cetera, or changes in the activity. Why wasn't rezoning not the route to go on this? And is it not, is it because the city doesn't generally accept that this type of activity is rightfully or should be associated with the operation of a car dealership, which is I gather the overall permitted use on the site?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I believe that the zoning amendment was very briefly discussed with the applicants before I took on the file. Mr. Gadban had pre-consulted with another senior planner before I started in the role. And the decision ultimately with that other planner. And are you having issues hearing? Sorry. Oh.
Just getting a little bit muffled at times. Seems like if you keep a little bit further back, it's fine.
If I'm further back? Okay. I've had issues all day. My apologies. So sorry about that. So yeah, so Mr. Gadban had been speaking with another planner and then my supervisor, a senior planner who signed off on the report. And they determined that the zoning bylaw amendment was not required because they're not, there's already a legal non-conforming use that exists. That's the auto body shop, and they're just looking to expand it. And so the ultimate decision was that it did fall under permission application because although it's not a physical expansion of the existing building that's housing the non-conforming use, that use is being relocated elsewhere on the lot, it still falls under section 45, subsection 2 of the Planning Act. The land is still being used for what it is. The use is continuous, so they determined that it was appropriate to go through the permission application.
Follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Does this mean that the city does not support the zoning bylaw, which is a reflection of council policy, does not support the principle sort of citywide of having an auto body repair function associated and operating where automobile car dealerships are operating? Is that what I'm to take away here?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I don't believe so. In fact, I believe there are other zones. I can look to find specifics, but there are other zones, as far as I know, where all of the auto uses are permitted in the same zone. I'm not entirely sure what the intent was when the property was rezoned as of the 2008 bylaw, such that the auto body shop was deliberately removed from the zone. But no, there are definitely zones where auto body, auto service, auto dealership. And as far as I'm aware, those all of those uses are permitted. It's the specific subzone that really not.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is probably something that should be brought up with the zoning under the zoning review that's going to be initiated subsequent to the future approval of the official plan. So I'll leave it at that. I don't have a fundamental problem with the application. I'm just curious as to why it's not subject to the zoning amendment to permit the use as a right.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Yeah, it is a bit of an oddball.
Can we, sorry,
yes.
Mr. Chair, can I just add a comment to that? Our building permit has been submitted for the phase 1 of the project, which is the renovations of the building, and for the relocation of the body repair and paint shop. And I've spoken with zoning at the building department, and they have no issues with that, and they're just awaiting this permission to allow the permit to proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from other members of the panel? No? Okay. Seeing none, I will open up the floor then for those in the audience. If you would like to speak either for or against this application, now is your chance. Just raise your hand and we'll bring you into the hearing. Okay, seeing none in front of me, I think we can then go to a vote. So let's make sure I'm looking at the right one. So in this case, for the application for permission, all those in favor? Perfect. So we are unanimous in granting the application as requested.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much. Best of luck with your project. All right, and then we will move on down the agenda to item number 4. That's 2055 Riverside Drive. I have Jessica Daou listed as the agent. Good evening.
Good evening.
Is it yourself this evening that will be doing the oath?
Yes, that would be me.
Perfect. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
I affirm.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So looks like there's been some action on this file in the last couple of days, especially with a couple planning reports and some amendments. So maybe Ms. Daou, we'll start with you if you can walk us through some of the shifts that have happened in the last couple of days, just so we're all up to speed.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, so through conversations with Ms. Glazero, there was some just slight inconsistencies in the site plan that was initially submitted in terms of some just minor changes that were required to avoid additional variances, one of which being just a reduction in walkway width to ensure we complied with the 1.2 maximum. So that was one of the changes. The other changes were just simple site statistic updates based on just double checking, triple checking calculations for rear yard areas. It is a bit of a strangely configured site, so we just wanted to ensure that there would be no need to return for future variances if there was any issues in the future. So we had those resolved and everything matched the variances that were initially sought. And then there were some additional site plan changes specific to tree protection. So through conversations with our consulting forester, the city and the city's forester, we were able to protect tree number 1, which is the distinctive tree that's located in the front yard along the Riverside portion. So the walkway you'll see now on the revised site plan that was circulated on Monday reflects a circular walkway that goes around the tree, with the intention being to avoid any excavation for that walkway. And then we spoke to some updated methods of foundation installation in the updated tree information report to further protect that tree. So those were the primary changes to the site plan through that coordination, but nothing again to the merits of the application itself or the variances that were requested initially.
Okay. And I understand that the overall height has actually dropped in this case as well, but you're requesting that the variance stay the same?
That's correct. So the actual height, based on just again double checking that existing average grade calculation, actually dropped to 9.3 meters versus the 9.9 that was requested through the variance application. That said, again, through conversations with Ms. Glazero, just because of the sort of varying grade on this property, in an abundance of caution, we would prefer to retain the variance request at the 9.9 meters at its very most restrictive. And then that way, if there's any question at the building code review stage, we do have a little bit of leeway in order to avoid having to return to committee to seek additional relief.
Okay. Ms. Glazero, anything else you wanted to add through that summation of your hard work in the last couple of days?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I think it was I think there's a lot of back and forth between Ms. Daou and I think we're satisfied with it now. And yes, I did suggest that once we figured out where average grade is to be measured from on this very unusual U-shaped lots, that even though the average height even though the building height was reduced, I suggested just leaving it as is. And then if in fact the grading shows that the building is going to be somewhere between 9.3 and 9.9, then there's a little bit of grading.
Okay. So sounds like very much that you're confident and you're comfortable with that change, especially of keeping the variance at the 9.9 rather than dropping it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes. So, and that I said I had no concerns with the 9.9, especially given, as noted in the report, it's largely due to the grade, and then most of the building does comply with the height. The requested variance is just for that, I guess, the westerly. I no concerns with
that portion at the bottom of the hill there. Okay. Great. I will open up the questions for other members. Ms. Willis.
Just a what if question, Mr. Chair, based on the grading issue and maintaining the variance where it looks like it may not be required. If we tie these variances to plans, I'm assuming based on the response that the actual elevation and the site plan will remain constant. It's only the grade that may end up, the way the grade is calculated, that may result in the variance being required. And I'm just asking so that we'll know when we are going forward, should we approve this, whether we tie it to plans completely, or whether if we did that, whether that would cause a problem.
Yeah, I had the same kind of question or concern with that, but I think I'll add that note. It may be worth adding that note to the decision itself, that we are tying generally to plans, knowing that the average grade may shift, but that the overall elevations are what we are actually concerned
Correct.
about.
Okay, I'd be good with that. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Ms. Daou, maybe I'll put that question to you, as we are talking in the instance of approval that we would likely tie to plans, given that clearly there's been a lot of machinations around that. Any concerns with the plans that are in front of us, the updated plans that are in front of us? Any concerns with tying to those?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so that's a good point. And I think we're comfortable fully with tying to elevations, and especially so far as they relate to the requested height variance, being that it would just be the change in grade. I would note that it may be worthwhile to tie specifically the site plan to only so far as they relate to the variances. And the reason for that being it would give a little bit of wiggle room with walkway proposed in the front in order to best protect that front tree, because it is the intention of the owners to make sure that that tree is protected. And upon inspection, if it seems like it would be most appropriate to reorient that pathway slightly, it would be best just in an abundance of caution to have that ability to do so if the committee is comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think that's logical that we would tie it in this case to, it's really only variances C and D, because A and B are related to the existing non-compliant lot.
Yes.
And so, yeah, insofar, tying it insofar as the 1.2 meter variance and then the height variance in that case.
Great.
Okay. Any questions from other members? Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did receive some correspondence from the community association, and they seem to be generally in support of the proposal. However, they did express some concern with respect to the location of the proposed driveway off of Pleasant Park Drive in proximity to the intersection of Riverside, and particularly specifically with respect to potential conflicts with cyclists going down that, I guess, going down that hill. Also, associated with that, they indicated some concerns with the possible congestion issues at the intersection as a result of that driveway being in that location. I wonder if I didn't see anything in the staff report that really addressed the sidewalk, or sorry, the driveway issue, other than with respect to tree impacts. Wonder if staff could comment on the concerns that the community associates brought up. Is there any issue there from their perspective? I note that the transportation comments, engineering services comments were largely deleted from the revised report, and they did not address that issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I did speak via email with the community association. I did note that the driveway, excuse me, the driveway complies with all relevant provisions of the zoning bylaw. So it's not the subject of the application. So I did note in my report that the secondary plan for the Alta Vista Faircrest Riverview, Alta Vista Faircrest Heights and Riverview Park supports retention of existing driveways or encourages retention of existing driveways where possible. However, there's some advantage to relocating the driveway from Riverside. Riverside's definitely a more busier road than a Pleasant Park. I'll also note that there's, where the proposed driveway is going, there's another driveway almost abutting it. In fact, a driveway that is non-conforming. It's a little bit wider than what is permitted under the zoning bylaw. I suspect it was installed without the benefit of a private approach permit. They're not that far apart. The proposed driveway and the existing driveway at the property at 73 Pleasant Park, they're quite close together in terms of the distance from the intersection of Pleasant Park and Riverside. It's quite a substantial distance. So, and I did note as well, the property was being regraded at the rear such that it wouldn't be, we don't have the issue of a car dramatically reversing up a steep incline, to make it up the hill and then shooting out onto the road. It's all going to be regraded such that it's at grade. So it's a little bit more of a stable access to the road there. But ultimately, as I said, the The driveway is not the subject of the application. It complies with all relevant provisions of the zoning bylaw. It'll be addressed during the building permit application stage. I noted that a private approach permit cannot be granted if the proposed driveway doesn't comply with the private approach bylaw. And then if there are additional issues at that point that are identified through grading review or review of the private approach permit, then they'll be dealt with at that stage.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions from members? Okay, so seeing none, I'll open up the public portion, and I'll ask anyone in the public who is watching if they'd like to speak either for or against this application to raise your hand, and we're happy to hear you now. Seeing no one. Making sure we've got everything together. Yeah, looks like we're in a good space. So I think, barring any other questions, I'm happy to bring this to a vote. So all those in favor of minor variances in this case? Great. So we are unanimously approving and granting your requested variances. And as I mentioned, we'll be kind of generally tying to plans in this case as they pertain to the variances.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thanks. You too. Have a good night.
Thanks.
All right. Moving right along, we'll go on to number 5. That's 2048 Dovercourt. I have Paul McLeod listed as the owner in this case.
Hello? Oh, there we are.
Hello. We see you listed as Bruce. Is this Paul?
Paula and Bruce.
I'm Paula, he's Bruce.
Okay, perfect. My note has Paul, so there we go. Paula. My apologies. So who amongst you is going to have an oath to administer about the sign posting? Who of you is going to take that this evening?
I can do that.
Perfect. So I will ask you, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
I do swear that that's true.
Perfect. So that's the official part.
That's this, right? So this is now done.
So that was confirming that the physical sign that was given to you when you that it was posted and staked in front of your house for the right number of days.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm just pulling up. So we do have a couple of very minor changes to the relief required. It sounds like it's some just slight changes to the text. So I'll read it out and just let me know if that makes sense to you. It's listed in the staff report. You'll see some strike throughs and then some bold to add some. So under the relief required, it says the owners require the authority of the Committee of Adjustment for a minor variance from the zoning bylaw to permit a reduced, we're striking combined as part of the total interior side yard setback of 2.53 meters and a northerly interior side yard setback of, it was listed as 0.6. We're being a little bit more specific and changing that to 0.61 meters. Whereas the bylaw requires a minimum, add the word total interior side yard setback of 3 meters with 1 yard less than 1.2 meters. So very much some specific little wording changes, I think, on the advice of our planners. Any concerns with that?
None. We have confirmed we have been consulted with Siobhan on that, so we're fine with that.
Perfect. Okay, so with that, I think that's all the official things at this stage. I'll open up the matter for any questions from anyone on the panel at this time. No? Okay. So just to confirm, so in this case, there is an existing garage, and you're replacing that and adding a second story and a bit of a mudroom in the rear?
That's correct.
Perfect. Okay, so seeing no other questions from members of the committee, I'll open up the floor to members of the public if they want to speak for or against this application. Please raise your hand at this time and we'll bring you in to discuss. No, okay, seeing none. Ms. Kelly, I see you came on board. Is there something you wanted to bring up?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there were also some small changes to the wording of the purpose of the application. I'm not sure if you need to speak that into the record or not.
Sure, I can do that now just out of an abundance of caution. So under the purpose of the application, originally it said the owners are proposing to, and then we are deleting construct a second story addition above the existing garage, which will also undergo renovations. We're striking that, and now it will read, the owners are proposing to demolish an existing attached garage to construct a two-story addition that includes a new attached garage, as shown on the plans filed with the Committee of Adjustment. So semantics at the end of the day, but it sounds like it's fairly straightforward. So thank you, Ms. Kelly, for confirming that. Okay, so seeing no one from the public coming forward and seeing no questions from other members of the panel, I think we can put it to a vote in this point. So all those in favor of the variances requested in this case, all in favor? Perfect. So that is unanimously granted. So best of luck to you, Bruce and Paula. Best of luck with your project going forward.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Chair
much.
and the committee. We appreciate your time.
Great. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I think now we're going to skip number 6 for a moment, and we'll go to number 7. That is 1992 Alta Vista. I have Sarah Fleming listed as the agent in this case.
Mr. Chair, it's actually going to be myself, Christopher Simmons.
Perfect. And it will be you, Mr. Simmons, that will be taking the oath this evening?
Yes, it will, Mr. Chair.
Perfect. All right.
But also Jacob Baldock is representing us, and I don't see him, so I don't know if he's there.
No, he's here.
Yeah.
I've got Mr. Baldock. We know him well enough. We see him fairly regularly. Perfect. So, Mr. Simmons, I will put the oath to you then first. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
I so swear.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And let's confirm that there are no changes in this case. No, I don't see any revisions to the application. I will open up the floor then to members of the panel if there are any questions related to this application. Mr. White?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question, Mr. Simmons. Is the intent to to build in accordance with the site plans that have been, I'm assuming it is, but can you confirm that the intent is to build in conformity with the plans that have been submitted? The staff report alludes to the fact that development will have to conform with the provisions of the zone requirements, setbacks, etc. of the zoning bylaw. But they also indicate, and obviously you have the right to apply for minor variances at some point in the future, unless our decision specifically ties you to the plans that have been submitted. Is the intent to do that? In other words, to build something in accordance with the plans that you've already submitted?
Intent is to not apply for any further variances. Is that a suitable answer?
That's fine for me, thank you.
And so I see here there's 5 variances being requested at this time, with the latest addition being the parking space length. Any concerns or issues with the staff report or any of the proposed conditions therein? Mr. Bolduc or Mr. Simmons, any issues?
We have reviewed the staff report and the conditions, Mr. Chair. We have not identified any concerns as such. We had initially reached out with respect to the noise study, asking if it was specifically related to the construction of the new dwelling or the proposal of the new lot. And we received clarification from staff that my apologies, the noise study will likely require that there be a notice on title with respect to proximity to Alta Vista, which is a major collector. That's all.
Okay. So no concerns then with it as it's worded and as it's proposed?
No concerns, Mr. Chair, from my side. Thank you.
Okay, great. Seeing no other questions or concerns from members of the panel, I'll open up at this time for the members of the public. If there's anyone who'd like to speak either for or against this application, now's your chance to raise your hand and speak before us this evening. Okay, seeing none. Hopefully this is going well. It's fairly straightforward so far this evening. So seeing none and having no concerns, I think we are ready to go to a vote on this. So we'll do it in 2 rounds. I'll start with the minor variances. So all those in favor of the minor variances for this application? Okay, that's unanimously approved. And then subsequent to the minor variances, all those in favor of the consents as proposed? Great. So again, that's unanimously approved. So congratulations, Mr. Simmons and Mr. Bolduc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Take care.
All right. And now we will go to our last item of the agenda this evening. That's number 6, 2055 Baffin. I have Rodney Baskin as the owner in this case. Good evening.
Good evening.
So it looks like I have Rodney, and then who is with you, Rodney, this evening?
My wife, Natalie.
Natalie Baskin as well?
Rulo.
Rulo, perfect. And you live at the same address?
Yes.
Correct.
Perfect. Just to confirm, I got to confirm it all for the record. Okay, so Mr. Baskin, I think the oath is for you this evening. All right, so I'll read it out. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted to the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
Yes, I did, I swear.
Perfect. So that's the super official part of that out of the way. I'll just confirm that there are no changes to the application in this case that we need to read out. Sorry, I'm scrolling wildly. Nope, it does not appear to be. So I'll open the floor to members of the panel if there's any questions. No. Mr. White, anything?
Mr. Chair, I just note that the planning department has expressed some concerns with respect to the rear yard minor variances, and I wonder if they could just possibly expand on those concerns. It appears that, and maybe I can stand corrected, but it's possible to build a unit on this, a reasonably sized unit on this lot within the bylaw requirements. And, I think that is essentially what staff report is trying to say to us. Wonder if the staff member could just expand on that a little bit for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, that was essentially our concern, is that the lot is irregularly shaped. So it's sort of a pie-shaped lot, which subsequently offers quite an expansive frontage along Baffin Avenue. Due to the awkward shape of the lot, we did note in the report that even with a compliant rear yard setback of 10, I think it was 10.95 meters, they would still not comply with the required rear yard area. However, we would have less concern about a reduced rear yard area if there was compliance with the rear yard setback. I think they were, I'm just looking at my report here, and it looks like that 25% of the lot area is about 230 square meters. If they complied with the rear yard setback of 10.95 meters, they would end up with a rear yard area of about 200 square meters. So it's still under what is required, but it's not, the rear yard area is not as reduced as what's being proposed under the current application. So I referenced the Alta Vista, again, the Alta Vista Faircrest Heights and Riverview Park secondary plan, which notes generous rear yard setbacks as characteristic. And I did also note that the irregular shape of the lot allowed for extra width along the Baffin Avenue frontage, which the applicant has taken advantage of as of right. I want to be clear that when I say taken advantage of, I mean they're benefiting from it, which is absolutely fine. They're complying with all the setbacks there. It's just the concern with the rear yard there. And I referenced the intent behind that provision, which is to reduce the impact of infill development on these larger lots by having a generous rear yard setback in the rear yard area. And I think I also noted that the irregular shape of the lot plus the reduced area plus the reduced setback is going to really amplify like all those things in combination are really going to amplify the infill development when that is not entirely what we want.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe we've received a comment from a neighbor. I'm not sure. I believe the neighbor's here to speak to that comment. Perhaps I'll hear more on that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, maybe I'll build on that, Ms. Sclazero. So it's about a 2 meter reduction in the proposed rear yard amenity space or rear yard setback. But as it's 8.875 is the proposed new setback, which is still, if I'm correct, above average for at least kind of more new builds constructions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It depends on the location. Depends on the zone. I know with the infill provisions under section 144, it's always a percentage of the lot depth. So we're seeing a lot where it's 30% of the lot depth, 25% of the lot depth. So Yeah, so it's around between 10 and 10.95 is what's required. 8 is pretty common, 7 on some smaller lots. But again, it's amplified due to the fact that it's an irregular shaped lot. So.
Right. Yeah, and it is still quite a large home on a constrained lot in some respects.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the panel this evening? Not for now. So I know we did get a submission from Hashim Nasser, and I see you here this evening. I understand. I assume that means you would like to speak as well.
Yeah, hi there. Thank you. Yeah,
go ahead.
I may. Okay, well, I do want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I think it's very important that, this is a local, new local development, and that, it's currently they're looking for kind of a non-conforming, a variance from what would conform with the bylaw. So I think it's important to be able to have that opportunity for local residents to actually speak. I know that you have there've been a number of submissions, as I understand it, with respect to this. I live very close to this particular house. In fact, I live across the street, and I'm very happy to see that there is actually going to be development on it. I think it's a good thing. So I'm not opposed to development in any way. I'm not opposed to developing a lot in any way. I should put it that more clearly. And I've never had a chance to meet the owner. I've just said hello to them a couple of times in the time that I've been here, but haven't really had a chance to talk to them about the development at all. So I have made a written submission. I felt that I should come and just expand upon it slightly, just to make sure that the nuance of what I'm saying is understood well. Because maybe I didn't put it down on paper as well. I guess the things that I would like to point out are that in the cover letter that the owners have put forward, there's a number of things that were stated that I would respectfully not necessarily hold the same opinion on. So the first one is at number 2 in the four requirements for a variance. It talks about that that's an appropriate dwelling. It seems to be fits into the neighborhood, all those things. Well, I would disagree with that. This is a very, very large house for this neighborhood. Around this neighborhood on Baffin, there are no 2 stories. It would be the first one. Which is fine. I don't have a problem with a 2-story, but the square footage of the actual living space is about 3 to 4 times anything else on the street and in the surrounding area. Really, there are some larger homes farther away. I don't think they're this large. I haven't checked their square footage, so I don't really feel it actually complies with the character of the homes in the area. It takes up more space. I don't believe there's any other variances in the area in terms of backyards, and so it's a very, very large house. So I don't believe so, and also the coverage on the lot would be larger than I think anyone in this neighborhood. I don't know of anyone that would have that large. So that's one thing that I would respectfully submit. The other one is on the requested variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the bylaw. Well, I would say I would respectfully say no. The backyard that's proposed right now is about 16.87% by the city planner's own report, and it's supposed to be, according to the bylaw, 25%. So that's quite a large difference, and therefore makes the house larger, obviously. And again, I'm not opposed to the building of a house. I'm not at all. In fact, I'd like it to happen. So that to me is problematic. The final thing is it's stated in both letters, the revised one and this one, that there's broad community support. Now there may be, I don't know. I asked the person on this file if there were because it alludes to, it says here, please see emails for justification, and I asked, were there any emails of support for this particular plan? And I was told, no, there are none. So, and I've never been spoken to about this particular plan. And other neighbors that have spoken to me have told me that, and in fact, there is a submission that says the same, that there wasn't really any consultation. I know it's not a requirement necessarily for this, It's just that I think it kind of, it's an unknown. And of course, of course, the owners are entitled to privacy, but I think in this case, there hasn't been that consultation. So just to sum up, and I've written this in my written submission as well, I believe they should build a house to the standard, to the bylaw that exists. I don't see a compelling reason to build larger than that. And they should build to the maximum of what they can build under the bylaw. I think that would be, again, I don't see a compelling reason. I believe it might set a negative precedent in the neighborhood where other developments would use that as a precedent and say, we want to build this large and then reduce the green space, reduce the backyards, cut down more trees in the neighborhood. So that's my submission. I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. Maybe I think stemming from those comments, I think I'll put the question to the applicants. Can you tell us a bit about the public consultation that was undertaken as you were designing your plans for this application?
Yes, and if you permit, I would like to explain a little bit the reason why. It's because we are doing a second dwelling. I want to, since I'm the only child, I want to have my parents with me. I need to take care of them. So there's a in-law suite attached to my dwelling. So maybe that's the reason why my current neighbor see the house is very large, but you have to take that into consideration. That's the reason why I'm building also something for my parents.
If I may speak, she doesn't want her parents to feel like they're not because they're old, they have to be in a basement. We want them to feel like they're at home. So by building beside us, because we do have enough lot, they'll feel like they are at home. So, unfortunately, the back is a little narrow, as you guys can see. So to provide them like a living space where they can feel like they are in their own home, we have to use
the maximum
that we could at the back a little bit. So it's true the house looked wider,
yeah,
but the way we look at it, it wasn't like a wide house. We look at it like our parents is going to be under our roof, next to us, beside us. We can provide them care because we do care about the elders. That's all it is.
Okay, thank you for that. And it's a justification, or at least a rationale. Could you then maybe also speak to the consultation you undertook as part of, either before as you're drawing the plans or before you submitted the application? Did you talk to the neighbors? Did you kind of circulate and chat about what you were planning to do?
Yeah, we had spoke fluently. And then when we submit to the city council, we asked them we also sent an email, asked to if they can make sure everybody have an idea of what we were doing. Like Mr. Nassar, you are new in the neighborhood. It is true, I've seen you. And yes, we did say hi, but I don't know you that much. It's true. I did say hi to you, as you know. But it is true, I did not come to see you personally saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. But my understanding, honestly, I thought that when I spoke to the word of the neighborhood, and they give me the go, and they said they had no objection, and I asked them to pass it along to the one of the member of the neighborhood.
Yeah, we spoke with the executive councillor as well and sent us an email.
So in our mind, everybody received like that notice. So the only thing I can say, I'm sorry if you didn't get it, but we had no intention of telling anybody what to do. Even your neighbor next door, I was talking to him about it too. Peter next to me, Peter, the lady beside,
and his son.
She should know because it's been a long journey that I've been trying to build something.
It's been difficult since COVID. It was not easy.
It's nothing that we were trying to hide.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think Ms. Willis, did I see you had a question previously?
Yes, I just wanted to ask Mr. Nasser whether just to confirm that he was aware from being across the street, your concern about the size of the house, just making sure that you recognize that from a streetscape perspective, there is no relief being required. It's simply the rear yard reduction in depth as well as area that is really germane to this and germane to the size of the house, none of which is evident from across the street. So I'm just wondering what specifically your objection is to the size of the house, given that it, from all appearances from the street, it complies with the zoning bylaw.
Thank you for the question. So I guess the short answer would be really that the spirit of the bylaw is built for all residents. And if we set a precedent where someone can have a backyard of 16%, which I would suggest, I would submit there isn't one house in this neighborhood that has a 16% backyard. They're probably close to 40%, if not more. I think what it does is it in a way, it sets a new bylaw in a way, right? Because if I was going to build on my lot now, I would say, well, I'd like the same relief because I want to build a bigger house. And that's not really what the characteristic of the neighborhood is. I guess that's what I'm really getting at here. Like I said, I'm not against them building a house, not at all, right? And but it's just that you're setting a precedent. You're making a house that almost covers the entire lot. It is a massive lot. It does narrow in the backside, but it's a very, very large square footage lot. It is a weird shape. It's an unusual shape, but there are other houses around that have an unusual shape and they comply. So it's commendable. They want to have their family in there. I'm happy to welcome into the neighborhood. By the way, just to address a comment that was made that I'm new in the neighborhood. Well, I've lived here for about 3 years now, over 3 years. So I'm not really that new. And again, I don't think it's the owner's job to come and inform me necessarily, right? I'm not suggesting that. It's just that it was stated, and I've read some of the other emails and I've talked to others, and they were unaware of this, right? In fact, one of the neighbors on one side has actually stated that it has made a written submission of that to that nature. So again, it's not that they have to do that. They probably do not. I don't know if there's a requirement, but it has been stated. I was just addressing that. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Nasser. I just wanted to, if it gives you any comfort, that the decisions of the Committee of Adjustment are not precedent making. And so each one has to be dealt with on its own merit. So if somebody else wants to follow the lead on this, they too would have to make a compelling case that it makes sense in the situation, that it doesn't have major impact on the neighborhood. So I just thought I might provide you a bit of comfort should we proceed with the approval of this application.
I recognize that it's not, but once you have a precedent, I've been around long enough to know that once you set a precedent, it is used. Of course, if I was going to do the same thing, of course I would use the same precedent, right? I would use it as part of my argument. So I'm not against development. I'm not against the bylaw. I'm just saying, I guess my opinion is, I think a large house, very large, could be built within the guidelines and that would meet the needs of anyone. So, especially one that's 3 to 4 times as large as anything in the neighborhood. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your submissions, Mr. Nasser. I will open it up now to anyone else if they would like to speak either for or against. Oh, Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We just heard that an in-law suite is proposed as part of this development, which to me is a secondary dwelling unit proposal. Just a question to staff, are there any, if that's the case, are there any further planning approvals that would be required to allow a secondary dwelling unit in this building?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nope. Pardon me, the requirement is that the lot must comply with the minimum required lot width and area provisions for the.
Right, Mr. Chair, I'm having trouble hearing Ms. Glazero again.
I'm sorry. Is this any better?
That's better.
Okay. So my apologies. The requirement is that the property must comply with the lot width and area requirement for the subzone, which it does. There can't be a duplex, which is not permitted in the zone anyway. So there's no issue with the STU being proposed for this property. No other applications required.
Thank you.
I just had the plans up myself, confirming the location and the layout of the secondary dwelling unit. So very interesting layout. Okay. Barring that, any other hands up previously? But I'll make one last call just to make sure. Okay, seeing none, I think we are ready then to go to a vote. In this case, there's two minor variances, one for a reduced rear yard setback and the other for reduced rear yard area. So I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the variances as requested? It looks like we are unanimous in granting those variances. So thank you so much, Mr. Nasser, for your submissions, and congratulations to our two applicants this evening. And
thank you very
best
much.
of luck.
It's a big relief.
Thank you.
Okay.
I look forward to driving past and seeing the results of your hard work. Great. So that brings us to a fairly early end to our agenda this evening. So I guess thank you once again, as always, to our intrepid committee staff, our planners, our tree people, and all the experts that we get to consult with and hang out with on a regular basis. So thank you once again this evening. And I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Ms. Willis, and I think I saw Mr. White snipe that. So great. Thank you so much, everyone. And enjoy the rest of your evening.